Welcome to episode 4 of the Satori Perspective. I'm Nathaniel.
And I'm Michael, and today's topic will be on systemic racism and police brutality.
Okay.
So to start things off, I'm going to read a definition of what systemic racism is, and we can move forward from there. So systemic racism includes the policies and practices entrenched in established institutions which result in the exclusion or promotion of designated groups.
So an example of some of these institutions are like healthcare, education, the criminal justice system, and housing. So let's start with like education, for example.
Right.
So let's say we have two schools, a school in a poor neighborhood, like usually filled with more minorities, and a school in a usually nicer neighborhood with not as many minorities. Right? We have a kid named Jimmy. He goes to both schools, right? So let's say Jimmy starts out at the nicer school, the nicer neighborhood. Jimmy goes throughout all his 4 years of high school, joins all the sports clubs he could, all the clubs, and he has a great time, stays out of trouble because he keeps busy, and he goes to college and lives a great life, happily married, 4 kids.
Wow.
Great. And then let's say Jimmy, he goes to the school that's in a poor neighborhood filled with more minorities. That school doesn't have as many sports clubs or any teams he could join or any extracurricular activities. So after school, Jimmy starts hanging out with not a good of a crowd, starts finding himself in trouble, and drops out and he doesn't go to college or anything. Whereas if Jimmy was given the opportunity to join sports teams and clubs, he wouldn't get himself in trouble and he would, live a better life, you could say, find himself on track.
Right.
But like the way we could fix that, I guess you could say, is just fund that school better, spread the money evenly. So instead of giving that nicer school a brand new track where they already have a nice track, you can put that money into that other school, hopefully giving those kids there like better opportunities to, because you're not really giving them a choice, you're just kind of setting them in that bad direction.
Looking at it like one way, I think we need to look at how we can, like you said, spread the money evenly, and just look at areas that we know need it, that they can do better.
Yeah.
And another example is the criminal justice system. So I found a statistic that I will read out, which talks about comparing black people and white people who do the same crime and how they're sentenced. So it says black men who commit the same crimes as white men receive federal prison sentences that are on average nearly 20% longer. This is in the United States.
Yeah.
And I look at it how if a black male and a white male commit the same crime, why is a black male getting sentenced longer? What's the reason for that? If it's the same crime, it should be the same punishment for sure. And as I continued reading, it says judges are less likely to voluntarily revise sentences downward for black offenders than for white ones. In other words, and even when judges do reduce black offender sentences, they do so by smaller amounts than for white offenders. So I read that and I'm like, this doesn't add up. Why is it like that? And then I read it again and I see judges. So I see the people who make the decisions, right? They're a part of the system. I look at the system and the system is flawed. The system is biased towards white people. And if we're gonna change this, we have to look at who's in charge of the system, and we have to change it. We have to start from the top, and we have to change it from there. Because if we're committing the same crime, why, because of the color of your skin, are you being sentenced so much lower? It doesn't add up.
No.
And it's pure systemic racism, because just because I'm black, I deserve to be punished more, but we did the exact same thing.
For sure. Or even how all of it ties in together, like even in employment, how a person of color might not be given the same job opportunity as a white person. Like it shouldn't matter what color your skin is, or how jobs nowadays, they usually have quotas, and how they have a certain amount of black people or a certain amount of minorities they have to hire just to make, I guess, their store or whatever look good. And it shouldn't be the case. Whatever whoever's fit for the job
The most qualified
should just get it.
should get the job.
Like, simple. Even like personally, when I finished high school, I was looking for an apprenticeship for like 2 years in plumbing. I'm as qualified as it gets for like a first year. Like I'm up there. You know what I'm saying?
That's it.
Yeah. But I went on multiple interviews, talked to people on the phone, and none of it, like all the interviews I never got it. Okay, you could say this guy sucks. Okay, whatever. Phone calls. I was on this one phone call. I basically got the job. He was telling me like how when I start everything. At the end, he says, "Wait, so like what's your background?" I said I didn't really think that mattered, but I told him like Caribbean. He said, "Okay, cool. Like I'll call you back." I never got a call back, and I mean like okay, if let's say I just didn't get the job because for whatever reason, at least have the DC to call me back and say I found someone else. You didn't get the job. So like, the fact that just because I told you like my background and you assume I'm black, so you don't call me back like that's just not right.
You see it all the time, and there's so many missed out opportunities just because of the color of our skin.
Yeah.
And I think we just have to look at it as a whole because they all do go together, like education, healthcare, employment. They all do go together.
Yeah.
And we just have to look at who is in charge of this stuff, hold them accountable, and see how we can change the system.
Well, changing that's.
I know it's saying it is different than actually doing it.
Yeah.
But for it to actually change, the bias has to be taken out of the equation.
That's just racism.
Yeah.
Because like I don't think you could change that at all. Because like that's like it's like deep in a person. Like right. It's not. That's like a person's mindset.
Yeah. From generations to generations,
Yeah.
the history, we see it all, and that ties into police brutality as well.
Yeah.
And when we look at how the news has shown us so much, even across the states, we know that it's happening in Canada as well.
Yeah.
It's in our backyard, it's not. And all over the world. But just from our perspective, we can see how like we can relate to what's happening in the States.
Yeah, and it's not anything new. Like it's been around. Like a quote from like I think it was Will Smith going around on Instagram. He basically said racism isn't anything new. It's just getting filmed, and it's true because it's been going on for years, hundreds of years. But it's just now that social media is so popular and everyone has a phone and everyone's recording.
There's easy access to seeing everything,
which is why you see it on the news more. So 3 of the questions we got asked for speak on police brutality. First one being our thoughts on the protests and rallies.
So I think for the most part the protests have been peaceful, besides the looting. That's been like a downside of the protests, but the protests have been helpful. I'm glad they've been ongoing as well.
Yeah.
So that people see that we are serious about what we're talking about. This isn't, we're gonna continue to speak out about what we care about, what's important to us. I'm glad that we're continuing the tradition of coming together and rallying together.
That's what it's all about, coming together, because through all this, like people are just sick of it. Like it's been going on, person after person's dying, and that's what we all need to do. Just come together, and just enough's enough. And that's what the rally's been doing, and it's good. And I think there's been a lot of.
There's been we've moved in a positive direction.
Yeah, there's been like some change from it, for sure.
So one of the questions we had was, do you think change will come out of these rallies? And we have seen some changes. So one of them was
the police departments. They updated like their policies. I think it was their use of force law. They changed their use of force law, so like no chokeholds, which hasn't been updated in like 20 years. So that's like a huge thing.
And then there's the Breonna Taylor law with getting rid of no-knock warrants. So now you can't just barge into a house without a warrant. And
Even the George Floyd murder, where he was the police officer who killed him was murdered. I think it went from 3rd-degree to 2nd-degree murder.
Yeah.
So just those little changes, it's something, right?
Yeah. You have to see it, acknowledge it, be happy that it's changing, but obviously we know that it doesn't end there. It doesn't stop there. We have to keep pushing for more. We have to, because the change should have picked up.
Yeah.
But I think the protests and the rallies with all of that, they're noticing.
Yeah, that's just the start. Yeah, it's just the start.
So, and we're acknowledging that too. So that's why we're going to continue to push as well.
For sure.
Keep going. Last question.
As a black man, do you feel that you potentially could be George Floyd one day?
I think even before the George Floyd incident, I was aware and acknowledged that, you know, the way I interact with the police, I have to be very cautious and very careful. And after the George Floyd incident happened, it just put into more perspective that, okay, that could possibly happen to me and black people everywhere.
Yeah, for sure. Like you were saying, like it's always been kind of in like the back of your mind. It's been like something that we've heard for like years. Even like growing up, like your mom telling you when you're leaving, like, hey, be careful. Like if you ever get pulled over, respect the police, talk to them nicely. Just certain things like you shouldn't have to like or say to someone who's you're not supposed to be afraid of, someone who's supposed to protect you, right? And just like certain things your mom wouldn't let you do, like you can't wear a do-rag when you go out, or you can't wear anything too dark at night. You can't wear your hoodie while you're walking. Like I shouldn't have to be afraid of certain things. So it was like just from like George Floyd, I guess like you said it, like it just put it more in perspective and just made you think about it even more. Like the other day I got pulled over for speeding. I wasn't speeding, you know what I'm saying? But I got pulled over and police came and it's like I wasn't afraid, but it's like I just had it in the back of my mind, just be respectful, be nice, don't say anything, because you just don't want anything to happen, and that's not right. Like I shouldn't be thinking like that when the police pull me over, right? I should just be relaxed and feel fine. But I was anxious and just like, oh my gosh. And then first thing you think of is like everything going on. And it's like you don't want that to be.
And I think just being aware of knowing like what is going around just shows you how much racism is around us.
For sure.
And it's almost like we can't avoid it. It's here. And
yeah, no, for sure. It's here just as much as it's like just as much as it is in the States. It's here as well.
Yeah.
So a lot of people don't like. They think, oh, I live in Canada.
It's a nice place.
Everyone's nice to each other. We drink maple syrup. Like
we do. Well.
It's just racism is here just as much. You know what I mean? So it's nothing. It's nothing.
So to answer the question, do I feel like I could potentially be like it? I do.
For sure. For sure. I think like that's for every black male, black
female
person.
Yeah.
Right. There's always that possibility, and that's sad, but that's what it is.
That's the truth.
That's the reality of it.
So if there's anything that we said that is unsure, unclear, let us know. Leave them down in the comments below. Anything you want to add to this topic that we made that you would like further discussion on, leave those down below as well, and we would gladly interact with you guys and answer more questions about this topic. Thank you.
Thank you for watching. When did you? Thank you for watching episode 4 of the Satori Perspective.
If you have any questions, comments, or topics you would like us to discuss, leave them down below.
Down below. And we'll be back with episode 5.
So stay tuned.
And remember,
we want you to join us.